Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Here you go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode. I'm joined by a special guest. Well, actually, he's not even a guest no more. He's about to try to be a co-host of some sort. If you've been a listener of the podcast since day one, you've met this good brother Shannon Thompson, who's been on my podcast about three times, four times. I lost count. But he brings so much knowledge. He travels the world. He owns homes. He vice presidents of my chapter, so he does a lot. A Renaissance man, as they say. But we chopping it up. I want to get him back on the podcast. He has not made it a point. He said, I'm going to be the most featured guest on your podcast, and I said, yep, of course. And I really didn't argue. But Shannon says, Shannon goes. But I definitely love the conversations that we have together, and we become good friends through Alpha. And so for the listeners who this is your first time meeting you don't listen to the 4 other episodes that you've been on, why don't you give the listeners a brief introduction of who you are?
All right. Thank you for that heartfelt welcoming, Phil. I appreciate it. Again, for those who may not know, my name is Shannon Thompson. As Phil mentioned, we are fraternal brothers. Outside of Alpha, I am currently in school, pursuing a Ph.D. in political science, Washingtonian, grew up in the PG County, Prince George's County area. What else? Working in human resources, been doing it for a little over 15 years. As Phil mentioned, traveled just not to a number of places in the world.
Have you been putting it in your bin app? Because I remember last time we checked, you were at like 15%. I don't know where you at now. Are you still at 15%?
No,
I think I was at 11% of the world. You was at 15. I think you're gonna shoot up there. He's gonna be at like 20 before you know it.
So I was up to like about 18%.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
I was getting close to 20. I was getting pretty close to 20.
COVID, yeah.
Right, COVID messed me up. I was supposed to have gone to Ghana, and then Bermuda right before COVID happened, and then those both trips got canceled. I'm pretty sure that those 2 trips would have given me 20%, but right now I think I've visited I know for sure I visited over 40 different countries.
40, sheesh. And and we joke, but that was one of the first episodes we did together was about your travel and how that shaped your view of the world, and how it's it's something that's really exciting and something that's like contributed to your growth and learning.
Right.
And so, you hit me with topics, whatever, all the topics you hit. We have leadership, we have travel in the world, but I think that one particularly for this time that you brought up, that is actually very timely and very appropriate for this time, was about getting comfortable in discomfort or in the uncomfortable. I think that's a very, when you thought of that, and you're like, let's talk about that. Let's talk about this growth in difficult times. What made you think about this one as one of the topics for today, that we want to talk about?
So a couple of different things were happening simultaneously around the time frame when I had came with this idea and presented to you. One of the things that popped in my mind, one of the reasons is, as I mentioned, I'm in grad school right now, working on a Ph.D. And one of the infamous questions I get asked all the time, what do you want to do your dissertation on, or what do you want to do once you get your Ph.D.? And being asked that question, I find myself just saying oftentimes, I don't know.
Yeah, true.
And so some of the people, when I say that to them, they're definitely caught off guard because they're not expecting for a response of, I don't know, right? You spend as much time, money, energy in pursuing this advanced degree only to tell someone you don't know, right? But for me, working full time, being vice president of chapter, traveling the world, and working this PhD program, and also real estate stuff that I do on the side, it's the whole lot that I have managing all at once on my plate. And so I have to look at things in incremental ways so that it doesn't become overwhelming, right? And I think by me at this point in my my academic school training, I'm still open to learning so much more different content, material, research, and data. And I think I'll do myself a disservice at this point in time if I do kind of start to narrow my research area, my research interest, because there's still so much more things that I'm coming across regularly that's fascinating to me. So I think that at this point in time, I just remain open to what is it that I might truly be interested in pursuing long term. But at this point in time, I actually need to get through my classes. I just need to take my comps and pass those. And if I don't pass my comps, then I don't get a chance to the dissertation phase. So that's how I kind of have to break things down. But, people so focused on attempting to plan every facet of their life out to the T. And it's, to me, it can be overwhelming and a little unrealistic and limiting when you do try to be so detailed in your planning. So I just try to place myself in a situation where I'm open to continue to learn from the universe and see what the universe brings my way that will cultivate my attention. But that was kind of one of the things that were happening. Then also, back when I presented to you, Phil, I was contemplating leaving federal service, and I've been a federal employee for over 15 years. And so that's a huge thing, right? And as anybody would know, getting in the federal government it takes an act of Congress to get in, right? Yeah. And so with me attempting to, considering at that point in time, leaving federal government, it's like, oh, what you doing that for? What you want to, what's the reason behind it? And I'm like, you have to become secure of yourself to say, you know what, I'm taking a risk, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
And be assured with this. So that's kind of how I got to this place of being more comfortable with the unknown and came with this topic.
Well, thinking two things is, one, you said you slipped and said political, but your degree is in political science.
Yeah, so exactly.
I know that is your focus. And one of the things I'm hearing, and this is, I guess, across all levels of academia, is like a lot of students always focus when they go into academics or go into their school is what I'm going to do at the end of it, not enjoying the journey of learning. You ask anyone, oh, you get a degree in history, what are you going to do with that? Well, I was like, can I just focus on enjoying the actual classes I'm taking in the moment? I need to worry about my career. Maybe I can focus on, in the moment, what do I enjoy learning? Or maybe even not career-wise, but what skills am I honing regardless of my major? Right. As a history major, I'm not worried about what I'm graduating, but maybe I'm like, at least for this, I want to study the history, certain topics that I want to learn. And as a skill in the present, I just want to become a better writer.
Yeah.
And I don't need to worry about graduating. I need to focus on that. So maybe bring it back to that. Maybe think about what are some things, regardless of the naysayers or the critics, what are those two things that you're thinking about, like for yourself? Like, why were you attached, particularly in this PhD program, to political science? And then maybe additionally, like, not worrying about the future or whatever you're doing. When you say I'm studying, getting a PhD, what skills do you believe you're honing in this present moment? Like, regardless of what you do with your career, like, because of this PhD program, I'm more skilled at insert whatever.
Yeah, so for me is what I find to be fascinating, right? I go to Howard University and I'm learning political science. So there's a major emphasis on data research, the narrative spoken from a Black person perspective, right? And Black person experience. And for me, just being enclosed in an environment that's very conducive and appreciating of my background, my experience, and wanting to help promote and celebrate and empower other people such as myself that look like me is mind-blowing, right? And so one of the beautiful things that I really, really have come to appreciate, which I wasn't as open to it initially, but I love my cohorts, right? I think when you have other people who, and Howard is, all those HBCU is extremely diverse in school of thought, right? You have people from all over the world that come to Howard wanting to study at Howard, and particularly because of its rich history and students that the university produced, right? And so when I sit in class, I'm with all these other brilliant people, I'm like, man, I knew this, but when you talk to other people, you really learn, wow, there's some really smart people out here and that I need to step my game up.
Yeah.
And just listening to other people, experiences, stories, their perspective, it creates a situation where it just makes it that much more meaningful and rich, right? So the thing about the PhD is once you get a PhD, you have it for life, right? So
Yeah.
I can pick and choose when I choose to apply the skills and the tools and the credentials, whenever I want to do with it once I get the degree. But at this point in time, my focus is on building those rapport with my cohort members because they're
Yeah.
future doctors,
There
continue
you go. Yeah.
resources of my professors because they've been in this field for a number of years and they're viewed as the expert in the larger academic community within political science. And then just taking time to really just, like you made mention of just enjoying the process, reading. I've never really been one to do as much reading as I have since this program,
Mm.
but I'm thoroughly enjoying everything about it, right? It has really changed my mind, my thought process, how I analyze things, how I critique things. And it teaches you, to some degree, I don't want to say training to be a lawyer by no means, but
Yeah.
is to, you're oftentimes forced to come up with a counter perspective and present a solid argument that will support that viewpoint. So that's how I kind of make the comparison to the law. I mean, it's not, again, not the same exact training preparing to become a lawyer, but you have to try to find a counter position and present your case in solid, convincing way. So just all of that, just like cohort members, professors, learning more. That to me at this juncture of my life, what I find most fascinating versus me trying to focus on the end product.
Yeah. So you're speaking about, people from all over the world, and obviously, I've heard that Howard is the mecca of
Mm-hmm.
HBCUs. I don't know. My mom went to Hampton. She might throw a little shade in there. Which one is the real HU? Whatever, all that. But I would say particularly, and this is a question maybe you didn't feel this way, but one of the things that I've always, especially just when I am surrounded by excellence, and you said step my game up, it's been one as a motivator, but one time I could see it as the opposite flip where you're in a room full of, the future doctors,
Mm-hmm.
and that imposter syndrome stands up like, yo, what am I doing in this show? Like, what am I doing in here? Um, and, uh, and eventually, if you process that and get help, you realize that you're in the room for a reason. You could say
Mm-hmm.
like you wouldn't have been in the PhD program. Can you speak upon, you said people from all over the world. Did you in that instance of surrounding yourself with that, did you ever get like that feeling at first? Particularly, like, what am I doing in this room with, people from all over the world, or were just that natural alpha man confidence? You know what I'm saying?
So,
Honestly, caveat though, the alpha man confidence, I gonna lie, I didn't have that until like recently, like a couple this
a couple of
year.
years.
Yeah, a couple of years. Because the first
So,
first first solid year, I was like, what the hell am I doing in this show either? You know what I'm saying? Like, I had to be real with myself. So
no, yeah, I mean, and that's part of finding comfort in the
mhm,
discomfort, uncomfortable, right? For me, I had been out of school for
mhm,
9 years, and so when my first semester in the program, I did a class in it's called comparative politics, and it's pretty much
mhm,
equivalent to international relations, slightly different, but
mhm,
at this point in time, I was not as well versed with traveling, right? I mean, there's so
mhm,
that really exposed a vulnerability of mine because here I am in an international relations course with people from literally all over the world, and they're speaking on their experiences back at home, and I'm like, geez, I'm from America, right?
yeah, yeah,
And like I said, at that point in time, it was very limited travel. And so even with the travel experience that I had at that point in time, it wasn't one in which where I could really speak to in great detail of how government and cultures were in other countries abroad, right? So of
mhm,
course, I could say about France, but I mean, I guess about Eiffel Tower at that point in time, but to speak to their specific government, local, national, all that good stuff, I couldn't really go in great detail. So a lot of times in that class, to be honest, I was more muted one.
yeah, yeah,
but that's where I had to come to accept my own shortcomings, right?
mhm,
And be comfortable with knowing that I'm not an expert in this field and that I need to just humble myself and be open to listen to other people's experiences. And it wasn't necessarily a dig at my own confidence or my own knowledge base. It was more so I can't be an expert in everything, right? And I had to recognize that and be honest with myself to say this is not my strongest point. So how do I overcome this? Listening.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So maybe I was thinking two things, maybe listening to other people, but also just listening to yourself. Listening to yourself when you're, that whatever the doubt creeps in or the bad feelings creep in, you listen to yourself, say, why am I thinking like this? That's one way you're listening to yourself. But also additionally, like if I'm not going to chime in on something I don't know. Maybe I'll just listen to the guy that is from, the guy is from France. Wow, he's sharing some really good insight. I don't need to talk in class today. I'll just listen to him talk.
And so the interesting thing about that example is the guy from France is speaking on his racism experience in France, right? And there's no way that I could even really speak to that. When you are in a foreign country and you experience, unless it's blatant racism, you don't understand the country's nuanced systemic racism there, right? So even if I had known government on a very superficial level, how the government operates over there, I wouldn't have known if I was being discriminated against someone or if someone intentionally chose to speak French and not American because they knew I was American instead of just a Black American. Then I am being discriminated against unknowingly. And so for me in that moment, it's more so another reminder of just listen. And I think what's crucial is when you're uncomfortable with something, your body tells you. You know either the blood pressure blowing, heart beating faster, sweat, something in your body will tell you, okay, I'm uncomfortable with this. But I think that when you do feel that, when you recognize that feeling, and two, just sit in it. Just be open to, I'm uncomfortable, but no one's going to single me out with me being quiet, right? The professor may push me, but in conversations, he knew that I was definitely outside my comfort zone because I've been out of school for a number of years. I made that very clear up front. Like I'm new to this, and so he knew, and the other students knew I was faced in the program because there's only but so many people in the program. But so everyone knew that I was kind of new to the program, and they were patient and understanding with giving that grace and mercy, saying, okay, he's a new person. So they didn't expect me to really jump in the conversation, dominate. But when I did speak, I spoke when I made sure I did a reading.
You're right, exactly.
Speak to the literature versus my own personal experience. So I just paid deference to those who spoke from an experiential perspective versus theory.
Now you're really attuned to that. And you said the body part and being mindful and mindfulness. Have you always been attuned to like, yo, this is really uncomfortable? And that those cues, or what started that? If it wasn't recent, what started that process? Like, yo, I studied this. I studied well-being, or I studied mindfulness to be attuned to my body when I'm feeling uncomfortable and learn how to sit in it. When did you start thinking like that?
So no, that was not natural, right? I think that we are taught from kids and early on in our professional careers that you should at least fake it till you make it, right? And so that kind of becomes second nature for us to at least want to pretend that we are more smart or more competent, well-versed in what we actually are, right? And so for me, just like anybody else, but I'll own my own issues, I wanted to be viewed as competent, right? And when you say you don't know something, or if you speak on a matter and you don't sound as confident, then people see that, oh, you at least perceive yourself as being not so smart, right? But I had to find that there's strength in not knowing and exposing that vulnerability. And the more I found myself being honest with myself and others, me sharing I don't know something, then the more I found that people generally would be nice enough to want to explain and educate you, right? So if I'm talking to someone from Jamaica and they sharing with me their experience being in Jamaica, who's not going to want to share that information with you, right? I mean, people love to talk about themselves naturally. And so if I'm presenting myself in a humble fashion that I'm willing to learn something, and I'm asking you about your experience back in Jamaica, then you're more inclined to really break it down in a manner that makes it that much more conducive for me to understand it. So I just kind of had to learn through trial and error that it's okay to admit I don't know something.
Uh-huh.
But growing up, I went to by no means I go to civil school. Put that disclaimer out there. But I did go to Catholic school from K to 12.
Which
And then,
one? St. McNamara.
yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
I know that Maryland. I was trying to think of anyone in Maryland, but yeah, that's a good school. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah.
it's interesting. Interestingly enough, Brother Williams Leonard went there too.
Yeah, and one of my roommates at Bowie State went there as well. So small
hmm
world, like because I went to Bowie State for my. So I mean, it's Maryland. Yeah, Catholic school is a good school. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, but in my life, interestingly enough, I've always been in situations or settings, at least academically, where they will say, "Oh, you go to Catholic school, so you're the cream of the crop, you're the best of the best, right?" And then I go to University of Maryland, College Park, which is the #1 public state school in Maryland, and they're we're research tier 1 institution, we're the best state school in
Mm-hmm.
Maryland, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you go into the real world, and you're viewed as this black young man, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a quite a bit of adjustment where in certain settings you're told you're the best, but then you go into the real world and you're talking to some other people and you really find out, wow, like I've been very fortunate to have the experiences that I've had, but there's so much more I need to learn and grow
Mm-hmm.
into. But it's hard when you talking to a white counterpart and they go to Harvard or
Mm-hmm.
Princeton or some other school, and you kind of have to show you're just as smart, deserving, or gifted as they are.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it's like, let me try to just fake it and show how smart I am, when in fact, we all bring different strengths and weaknesses to the table, and you have to recognize it's okay. It's okay. But I still did my due diligence, to make sure I learned what I needed to do to get as well versed as my white counterparts. But initially, to answer your question, Phil, it was a struggle to want to own that feeling of I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. It's almost like you. Do you feel like you? I mean, what? I feel like it's a muscle you have to train, right? The
Yes,
muscle of
yeah.
getting uncomfortable. Like,
So
like
there's
for
yeah.
instance, like I would say one thing, like public speaking. Like
Mm-hmm.
that butterflies in your stomach. Eventually, over time, you're still gonna get those butterflies, but you learn how to like use it as fuel. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
like I'm always gonna get nervous when I talk in front of people, and sometimes it shows more than other places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't show that the nerves go away, but you over time you train your brain or train your body to say, like you just said, like wow, in this moment I feel this way. I can
Mm-hmm.
push through it, or I could also address it, but then to say like this is normal. This is not
Right.
like
Right.
my body's not doing something weird. Like, yeah, my palms are sweaty, but that's a normal symptom, but a normal thing. But you still just do it anyway. And over time, like you talk to the most renowned speakers and you
Mm-hmm.
ask them, do they still get nervous? They're gonna say yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most crazy part. They still say yes, but over time they've learned how to still perform regardless.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
don't minimize it. They still just get as nervous like everyone else. They're human like anyone else.
Right.
They
Right.
have fear of failure and all that stuff, but they learned over time to recognize that, be attuned to it, sit
Mm-hmm.
in the moment, and then still execute.
Yeah, so to your point, what I do in more recent years, what I've been very conscious and mindful of attempting to put myself in positions that make me feel what had normally would make me feel uncomfortable, right? And so a perfect example is becoming vice president of chapter. I mean, no one knew, but I was petrified into it just because you know, because you were around. But for me, I had, prior to becoming vice president, I had not held any other office or position
Yeah.
on the board, and so to go from being a brother of the chapter to now being vice president, it was scary, right? Because we're all alpha men, and we all supposed to present ourselves a certain way. Going back to that mode of how we are supposed to be viewed by others, but the reality, I was scared inside. And so, but I constantly wanted to put myself in that position so that I could be uncomfortable, because that's where you find growth, right? You grow when you put yourself in places that are foreign, uncomfortable, uneasy. And so that's just one example. Another example, before we started recording this, we were just chatting about real estate. I remember when I had owned my first property, and then I got approved for a second property, and I was like, "Oh my God! Like, what did I just do?"
Yeah.
And so I'm like, "Wow!" Now I'm responsible for 2 mortgages and managing 2 houses. But then that was the catalyst that made me build my confidence with now owning 5 properties. So every time I purchase another property, it becomes that much more confident of me knowing I can do this. I can take this on. I've demonstrated my ability to manage multiple properties because I've managed 2, I've managed 3, I've managed 4. So it becomes a little bit more easy over time, but you have to put yourself in positions where you are able to grow and learn from it and be comfortable in knowing I don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
How you're able to grow as an individual, as a professional, whatever your field is, as a husband, a wife, whatever the case may be. You have to just be open to those opportunities and sometimes just find them.
And that's funny thing is too, is like I did, I talked to mad leaders, leaders of, and I've been around leaders, and it is that image. Like you say, oh, you didn't know I was petrified. Like it is very comforting to know that even the people that you look up to, or people that look like they have it together, on the outside, not necessarily. It's what I've learned over time is leadership does not simply mean that you're, less uncomfortable than others, is that you're able to own it and then still do and execute. As I go back to it, like you said, you were nervous, but what most people know that didn't listen to this podcast or see you walk in a room. And I think it doesn't mean you can't be vulnerable, right?
Right.
Like you definitely, be vulnerable and say, I wasn't feeling confident in this moment. But at the same time, you don't let it stop you.
Exactly.
Like that's, or like the duck that is on the water and the feet are going crazy underneath. The fact is, the duck is still in the water, and the fact is, the duck is still moving.
Exactly.
So it doesn't negate that. I don't think, and I'm working on it. It's like saying that you're scared or nervous is not a weakness, is not vulnerable. It's okay. But the thing is, as a leader, it's still showing up though. Like you can be like nervous in the hallway, but then you still have to go into the meeting,
Exactly.
Like that's totally fine. Be comfortable, like be totally transparent with yourself. Like, I am nervous. I'm uncomfortable. This is going to be awkward, whatever.
Right.
And you say, and you acknowledge it, it is coming. You don't you don't disregard it. You don't say, oh, that was nothing when it really was something.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day too, the flip side is that, but I'm still going to do it. I think that's what I've learned over time is courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the acknowledgement of fear and then doing it anyway.
Exactly.
So I think that's the same thing with uncomfortable, right? Courage is not the absence of discomfort. Yes, you're going to be discomfort or just uncomfortable. Yeah, discomfortable, like whatever. But not the courage part is, I acknowledge that this is a very uncomfortable situation, whatever, but I'm going to still do it. And then you do it. And then at the end of the day, the funny part is like everything else, like getting off that roller coaster or whatever, you all happy, you feel like you're proud of yourself for doing it, and then you do it again because then it wasn't a big deal. Most times it is.
And you might be more inclined to go get on a roller coaster that's higher or faster. It's just that initial acceptance of, I'm nervous about getting this roller coaster. I'm going to do it though. And once you get on it, you realize, it wasn't that bad, and I can do this again.
Yeah, exactly.
Higher. And so you just those baby steps are stepping stones to building your courage. If you look at courage as a muscle, right? That's something you have to work on. You have to cultivate that relationship. You have to invest the time to build it, because the more you focus on building that muscle of courage and confidence, then the easier it becomes for you to tackle new, bigger, better things. And so just being comfortable with that is really where you find your strength.
So what is, like you think that also part of that courage is not focusing so much on the future? Because you could chicken out. Like I would say sometimes someone's like, yo, what is your secret to doing stuff? And sometimes I say, I just do it before I could I could chicken out. Like,
Yeah, but you got to find whatever
yeah,
works for you, right? I think that if you look at some of the greatest leaders, right, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr., um, I don't know if they would have done had they known what the end result would have been, right? And
yeah,
I'm not even speaking to the fact that they were assassinated, but I'm also speaking of the platform that they were placed on.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Rosa Parks, she simply thought that she was tired and she just wanted a seat. She wasn't looking to become this national,
Change agent. Yeah,
exactly. And so you can't get so focused on the end result, because if you think of all the ramifications that or potential outcomes that could come from this action, then you might talk, like you said, talk yourself out of doing it. You may prevent yourself from doing it. But if you just look at the steps and focus on step one, step two, then you're able to continue to build on those stepping stones to get to the end result. And sometimes you don't know what the end result may be, but you have to be at a place where you're open to start. That's most important.
yeah. I mean, I thought that was, the same thing. Would you ask me if I was going to be a chaplain? Like,
Yeah.
no, but the point is also just the journey too. Like, I'll be
Mm-hmm.
honest with you, I wasn't thinking about like when I looked at the when I tried to join the chapter and I looked at leadership roles,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't worried about any of that stuff. I was just trying to finish the week. I mean, like you said, day by day, like I'm just trying to make it through this. I'm trying to make it through this week. I'm trying to make it through this week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, this week's coming. I'm just trying to make it through this week. Oh, I'm
Right.
just trying to cross. Like, oh, I'm in now. Okay. So, I think we don't focus on it. And then before you know it, you snap. And then like, it is like, wow, like, I think that is the part of that discomfort, like being so focused on present, is that I really don't think I thought about any of the stuff that happened to me now.
Exactly.
The only thing I was worried about was like, the podcast I started 3 years ago. I think I was just like, the discomfort part was, I told you this behind the scenes, is that I recorded my first episode like 4 times and sat on it from December to April. Saying I'm nervous. I don't want to. And if you would have asked me why was I so nervous, I wouldn't have told you. But now I'm at the point where I was like, I can imagine why didn't I start this, or or I'm just recording all the time and playing around with it and getting better. But I think a lot of people, I think the part I'm learning too is that a lot of people forget where they start. And I think that I think I kind of want to bring to another point is that I think the empathy part is that remembering when you felt uncomfortable help someone else, because like as you said, no one will ever know that you were nervous to be an officer.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna meet you at a point in life when you've done it already.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
And so, like, and I think that's what we all have a hard time doing. I think that's the empathy piece, is like, I think when we're so focused on our own discomfort, I don't think we're sometimes attuned to how things are uncomfortable for others too. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. So, and that's the thing about it. As you continue to build your leadership skills in particular, then you are able to be mindful of those things, right? So, I work in human resources, and I used to be a manager. I chose to get out of managerial roles so I could focus on school. But in having those skills that come along with being in human resources, I and a manager, one of the things I took pride on, for instance, is treating my employees like humans before they were human resources. So in doing that, you do look at people as being people, and you are easily able to identify people's strengths and areas for improvement. And my job as a leader is to kind of help push you a little further in those areas where I find there to be room for improvement, right? But in order to do that, I have to give you that space to grow, to learn, and to even and sometimes potentially fall. But if you do fall, be there to kind of help catch you or to help get you back up. So they kind of work hand in hand when you are the individual who are in that space of discomfort and being okay with it. And then there's the other part of it when you are in a leadership role or just caring for someone who you see trying to grow and develop, right? Like for you, Phil, I told you from the very beginning, I was thoroughly impressed and inspired the fact that you took the initiative to start a podcast. So I wanted to make myself available to you to help you grow your vision. And I recognized that there was some nervousness on your part with starting the podcast, on my part as being a guest.
Yeah.
Let's do this together. And so now you and I are able to come together and just have this type of chemistry where we're just able to flow and feed off of each other. But we both gave ourselves that space, that room to be uncomfortable. And so if you notice, when I first did my first recording with you, man, I had so many questions outlined in the very beginning.
Yeah, like I was like I said, like, and that's the funniest part too, is like you had all this stuff and all these outlines, and
right.
and you said this now. I'll be honest with you, like with this outline, I only use like 2 questions.
Right, exactly.
But I'm saying, but I get what you're saying. It's like as you become more and more comfortable, but I think that's a good thing though. Be over prepared early on, and then dial back when you get more into a flow. I'm pretty sure someone's first speech, they're like super nervous and they wrote out the whole speech, but then before you know it, you ask the best speaker, he's got like a couple bullet points on a note card, and he's gotten into a rhythm, you know. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think that is part of that discomfort, is allowing yourself to grow. But, you know, obviously take it very seriously early on, and then get better and get better and get better, and then I guess before you know it, you could be easier, you know.
So there was some, I mean, of course, I did a little bit of basic research in preparation for this, right? And I came across this source, and it talked about how we as human beings, we find comfort in spaces of familiarity, right? But the downside of that is you lose your sense of evolution. You're not looking and seeking opportunities to continue to grow, to expand your knowledge base, to expand anything. And there's some reason why our brains are wired they are, because we like comfort. For food, for a source of comfort. We want to make sure our homes are very comfortable for us. So we take those same habits and try to apply them every facet of our life to make sure that we are comfortable, right? But based on some of the research that's out there, the value in being uncomfortable is that it helps improve performance, creativity, and learning.
Yeah,
and so
for sure.
There was a particular study that they made mention that they had subjects, being people, and they had cards. They displayed some images that were foreign and some that were unforeign. And the images that stood out the most were the ones that were unfamiliar. And the purpose of the study is to show that those things that we see over and over and over again are to tune out in our life, right? And so there is a disservice when we remain in a state of comfort, right? Like if you're working out, for instance, going to the gym. If you keep going to the gym and you run the same 3 miles every day, same incline, same speed, it starts to lose its benefit.
Adaptation. It doesn't adapt. You don't adapt.
Exactly.
Like psychological adaptation. Or if you never took a promotion, or like, hey, we got this job for you. I never did it before. Well, then you're just going to do the same old and never grow professionally.
Exactly.
I get that. Yeah, and I get that. I feel that. And I think that also we translate a lot of discomfort to a physical threat. And I did, some things about studies and stuff, is that a lot of us psychologically put on us that stress of like real, survival mindset to things that are not really threats to us. Like we treat the world as threats because in our brains we're wired to look for threats and be hyper vigilant to survive. But as you know, we're not cavemen anymore or whatever. And the things that we perceive as threats are not necessarily real threats. So I definitely agree that, you don't grow. Like if you never, you can always do, if I never did X, then I never would have became X. And I think most of the times, if I never did the X, was always something out of the norm or different or scary. I like that. And also I do agree with you, man. If you see the same car, you'd be like, oh man, that's just a normal Honda. But you see that really bright red Lamborghini that you've never seen before, it catches your eye, right? So I do agree with that.
The thing with that, in addition to catching your eye, then your next question might be, oh wow, like how did you get that car? How do I you have the car.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So maybe how does it translate to maybe meeting new people? Because I don't think I ever would have thought about being an alpha man until I met Alpha. You know, like or like you said, I never would have thought I would have been. I think you kind of alluded to it very early in that presence. And this maybe just brainstorming what I thought is like, you know, you're always saying like, what are you going to do after this PhD? Well, maybe you're like, I'm not worried about that. I'm in the journey. And half of that is I never knew what I would have been unless I started surrounding myself in this cohort. And then
Exactly.
had like this, and I
Mm-hmm.
had this like informal conversation. I was like, one of your cohort persons put you onto something. You're like, I never knew you could do that. And that
Right.
was the new unknown, is just because you were surrounding yourself with people different that you never would have thought of. And they gave you ideas of things to do. Like, honestly, quite honestly, that's a lot of my life is like, I never thought about going to X, Y, and Z until I met someone and they put me on. And I was like, oh, you could do that? And I was like, yeah.
Wait, like a PhD, right?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know, man.
But see,
but that's true. Like, one of the thing is, in my circle, as I've grown or, you know, elevated professionally, I've met more Black males that are obtaining PhDs that I've never thought. I've never seen this many quantity of Black men. Like Shannon, I know so many people now, whether they completed it or in it, that I never would have thought of until this part of my life, meeting people. That it's like, it has become a little bit, not saying normalized. Oh, no, your journey is definitely tough and scary. I'm not minimizing it, but I'm seeing it more like, oh, that's my friend. He's doing it. You know, okay. There's a lot of commonalities. We're friends for a reason. I see myself. I see the values that I have. Maybe I could do it too. Not that I'm going to, but but it's that mindset of like surrounding yourself with people that you see, wow, like these are people. Not only do I look up to them, which I look up to you, but also I do see myself still at the same time as a peer too. Like, I look up to people, but also say like, but they were like me, or they are like me. I could probably do it too if I tried. And so I think that's a good thing that you're doing in regards to not necessarily knowing the future, but making sure that one of the things, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do in the future, but at least what I do know is that I'm going to surround myself with influential, smart, driven people. And by natural osmosis, I'll find out what I'm gonna do next. Whatever. It'll come together.
So the beauty of and hanging out with people or surrounding yourself with people, whether it's professional, personal, fraternal, you want to hang around people that naturally takes you outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even just in our chapter, for instance, there are so many brothers who I probably would never have come across in my normal day-to-day life, right? And hanging out with, or even not hanging out, but just meeting and engaging brothers within our chapter, there's always that little bit of nugget, that gem that's being dropped. And you're able to not necessarily pick it up and take it for yourself, but it just exposes your mind to, if Shannon can do a PhD, I can do it too. Like, or it may not be a PhD, it may just be a JD, it may be something, a certification, or whatever the case may be.
Or it could be the investment. Like, they talk about that all the time. I'll be honest with you, Mark Peters put me on the Acorns.
Okay.
Like, I was like, what is that? He's like, yo, this junk, I downloaded it. I mean, like, that's, and it's just natural. Like, okay, now I'm looking about dividends and all that financial talk that we have. I totally agree. I totally agree. Like, it's like, wow, like, there's so many little mini things that I've learned from just meeting people in our chapter. But like you said, like, I never thought of any of this stuff. And so I think that's good.
So, here's the thing, right? Like, we can start at any moment in time doing things that would intentionally and purposefully place us in positions that are maybe a little uncomfortable, right? So I try to be more mindful now in my life to give people, what is it called? Like a charge to action, a call for action, right? And so mindful of that, I know naturally people tend to want to shy away from conversations that may be confrontational, right? It could be providing or giving constructive feedback. And so one thing that your listeners can do starting today or tomorrow is having a difficult conversation with maybe a spouse, a friend, a boss, or somebody who, the conversation could get a little heated, but in taking that baby step of just approaching that topic, that subject with that individual is one way of finding the common ground and growth, right? If you, let's say, if you're married and your wife does this field and it really drives you insane, but you don't say anything to keep the peace, well, deep down inside, it's going to continue to annoy you. It's going to just not keep annoying you because you're trying to avoid that conversation to keep the peace. But if you were to step outside your comfort zone a little and have that conversation, make and ensuring that you put in safeguards to make sure the conversation doesn't go south, you could potentially, one, resolve that issue that continues to annoy you, and two, you're building your skill set, your confidence in taking on conversations that you believe to be confrontational. So just one thing you could do to kind of help build that muscle, like you say, public speaking is something that people are naturally afraid of. So do something to put you in a situation where you're able to speak publicly. It could be Toastmasters. It could be giving a informal brown bag training during lunch, right? Like, I still hate public speaking. I mean, so I try to be mindful of doing that, right? Like, you may recall during the previous Black and Gold Ball that we had, I had to serve in, I don't know if you went, but I had to serve in Chris's spot as president. I was petrified. And I probably could have did a better job, just always being a one for constant improvement. But I did it, right? I didn't stop it from preventing me from doing something that was needed, since I do serve as vice president. But then also that was an opportunity for me to really practice public speaking, right? One thing people can do is learn how to promote yourself more often, right? I do know that there are certain demographics of people that try to shy away from promoting themselves. And one thing I come to learn from being in school and talking to other people at Howard, for instance, is that women tend to not promote themselves in the same manner and fashion that men do. And so if you are a female and you're looking for an area to be uncomfortable, then try promoting yourself to someone. Pursue that business venture, pursue that whatever that is that you've been wanting to do for some time now, but it will require you to speak up and promote yourself. There's small baby steps that we can do starting right now at this moment that will help us get to a long-term goal. One of the things that I hate, I'm not a numbers person, but in managing properties, being and taking myself from a more operational perspective to a more strategic, big picture perspective, I have to get more comfortable with looking at the data. The more comfortable you are with data, for instance, I could put you on a budget. Being on a budget helps build wealth. And so there's small, tangible things that we can do at this moment that may be uncomfortable, but it definitely can bring about long-term gains.
That's dope. Well, I mean, I think we dropped a lot of gems. And so I think this is a perfect time to go into our shot for shot segment. What you think?
I'm down.
All right. So the listeners, Shane already know about this. Shot for shot, you ask any random question, I ask any as related or not. And then, we do our thing. So you want to go first? I go first.
You go first.
All right. So, man, COVID's wrecked your travel plans.
Okay.
But, let's say you feel comfortable. Let's say it's summer 2021. So what are some countries that are you going to try to get on your list to go? You already said Ghana. What'd you say? Ghana, and what was the other
Ghana
one?
And Bermuda.
Okay, that's two. Bermuda was for the conference, right?
It was.
Okay, well, that's besides those two. Give me three more, to add to the growing list of Mr. Traveling the World, and just one reason why for each of those three.
So, the way that I do my travel schedule, the summer seasons is the best time to go over to Asia.
Okay.
And so there's Thailand, I want to go visit, Malaysia, and Vietnam. I've heard nothing but good stories, just mind-blowing stories and experiences. You see photos, they are beautiful. Summer in particular is more appealing because it's their off season. And so you're able to take your money much further than during other seasons. And so Hotels are extremely cheaper. Airfare is cheaper. And so you're just able to take advantage of seeing culture, landmarks at a more affordable price, in my opinion.
So, so two questions. Do you have like a set alert, like you set alerts in your phone from a certain app to go? One, and then what's your typical time frame? Like you go over there for like what, 4 days or so to really
So
see the place and balance? What's
yeah,
your typical length?
so it just depends on what's going on at work and alpha or school. So normally I come to learn that after 3 days in one place, I probably get bored. And so, the flight to Asia is quite lengthy. So I would recommend trying to, instead of being at Thailand for a whole week and a half, break that trip up into visiting a few different cities while you're over in that part of the world. So, do research. Vietnam, for instance, does require a visa. China requires a visa. So there's certain countries that you need a visa to get into. But I say take advantage of when you're flying that far to the world, see as many places as you can. There was an app that I used to use. At the present moment, escaped my mind because I deleted the app on my phone because I wasn't planning on doing traveling this summer.
Yeah.
Base. But I will say, when you're looking to make travel arrangements, then I would recommend that people check in all types of different cities. Living in the DC area, we have access to New York, Atlanta. Those are some hubs for a lot of airlines, and so you can easily hop on the Amtrak train and catch a train up to JFK or LaGuardia if need be. And instead of trying to search for a flight out of DCA or BWI or Dallas, you can also consider flying out of those airports, or even including Philadelphia. You can fly out those airports, and it will save you like $100 on a plane ticket, but you do have to at least commute from DC to Philly or to New York. I mean, what's a 4-hour train ride to save you hundreds of dollars on a plane ticket? So I will recommend that people do that as well. So just be open to checking out different cities to fly in. Because you could easily possibly, I know Delta, for instance, has, or at least it used to, I'm not sure about how it's going to look post-COVID, but Delta had a shuttle flight from DCA to LaGuardia every hour throughout the day. And so you probably can get one of those tickets for extremely cheap and then just hop on a different airline that sells a cheaper ticket from JFK, because you could ride a taxi or a shuttle bus from LaGuardia to JFK and go anywhere else in the world, you know what I'm saying, and save so much money. So I would just recommend that you do due diligence to find the best deals.
Jeez, that seems like some work on its own just to go. Shout out
to you. But it's
going. You're gonna keep on going to get the percentage up. I'm gonna stay at 11.
No, you can't say it. We just talked about being uncomfortable, right?
I'm comfortable. I don't want to do all that research. No, that part of me going across the world is not. That's not the. I would love it. I mean, I told you I was the sole black man in China one time. I don't care. I don't. Oh man, you're doing way more. The work part. I guess that's the uncomfortable part. Doing all that research. Jeez.
Well, so initially doing it is uncomfortable, but like for me, it just comes second nature. You go to these websites and you just go to here, and it takes and you can set up different alerts through a number of different apps that will do some of the research for you to let you know when's the best time to buy deals that will monitor flights. So if you just do your due diligence up front, which may be a little nerve-wracking.
So you got into a system.
You got to find your.
So you basically you become your own travel agent. Like
basically.
Gotcha.
Basically.
But you identify what country you want to do and then kind of work around there.
And then I'm open to travel days as well. Usually less people at work, more people are normally traveling. So it's easier to travel on some because vacation season for a lot of people. Employers are more willing to approved leave, right? The holiday season is another great time to travel. I mean, I'm single, so I don't have to worry about providing Christmas or hosting family or Thanksgiving. So I had that time frame as well to take advantage of all those different travel deals as well. So you just got to find a system that works for you.
All right. What's your question for me?
So I'm gonna give you a opportunity for you to tell me one, what's a area where you feel most vulnerable and how you plan to bridge that gap.
Like vulnerability right now.
Yeah.
I mean, and that does not be cocky. I feel like this year is COVID. It's like jacked me up all kinds of places. You know, maybe vulnerability is starting that starting a new academic pursuit.
Which one? I think you started to say PhD. So
no, whatever.
Where you going with that?
Just like yeah, man. Like
as you try to shy away from it.
Yeah, I think one of my main things is discomfort, and this is it. Vulnerability is stepping into leadership.
Okay.
And feeling as though I'm a leader. And when I say that, like really, like saying that without like feeling corny, like. And when I say not corny, but it's like, yo, like I'm just doing my thing, and I like to help. And I guess I have a following of some sort, or people think I somewhat, but at the end of the day, like sometimes I look at, roles. I used to always like look at roles, like leadership roles, and be like, hell no, that's not for me. I'm not, good. I'm not good enough, or I don't have no experience, or I'm just not going to do that. And more, it's gotten better. So for instance, let me say, like, if you would have talked to me last year, a year before, maybe when you first met me, when I crossed, I would never thought I'd be a chaplain or the vice president of engagement for the Black Alumni Chapter at Mason. All these things that have titles, or co-chair of. I'm in this professional organization for career counselors, and now I'm the co-chair of one of their conferences for 2021 in Atlantic City. And I still don't think still think sometimes like, yo, like they're gonna find out. and even actively when people recruit me or say, like, I've never and let me be honest, I actually, yo, that's crazy. I've never really looked for leadership. Like, for instance, when I wanted to be chaplain or became chaplain, I wasn't looking for it. Gillis approached me and said, hey, I think you should check this out. Would you be open to doing it? Okay. That's what I like. That's usually my mindset. Okay.
Right.
Black alumni, this current Black Alumni Chapter, I didn't think about running. Brother David Atkins said, I think that I would like you to join the board. Okay.
Right.
Sure. This co-chair of Eastern ACE, someone said, hey, Philip, we would like you to get more involved in this organization. Would you be open to having a conversation? I was like, what do you got to do? And they told me what you got to do. I said, I think I can do that. So like most of the stuff that happened to me, I've never actively sought out. Yeah. Suck out. But it just happens to me. And so I'm still working on that. Like, I'm not actively looking for none of this stuff. I'm just kind of like, people think they see something. I say, okay. And then before you know it, I did it.
But see, that's the beauty of it, right? Remember I had mentioned that the universe will just speak to you. The universe is using all these individuals to speak something into you that you didn't see for yourself. And what's amazing is that you've been open to receiving what the universe speaks into your life, and all these different things that you are agreeing to take on as labels and titles are only continue to prepare you to what's truly destined for you. If you acquiesce and give to the universe, yield to its will, it will not do you wrong.
Yeah, it's more like, but it's like I actively don't. When I see it on paper, I still have that mindset. Like I'm not going to do that until someone, regardless of the paper, was like, I think you should do it. I'm like, okay, like, straight up. Coming back to Alpha, I literally will tell you the 100% truth. I was not thinking about it until Maurice said, hey man, are you still interested? I said, I guess so. Why don't you come check out Theta Rho Lambda? Okay. That's like literally I said, okay. And it's mostly people like, and I appreciate every single person. That's why I give them credit. is most times they're like putting me on the opportunities, and when I do it, I try to be the best I can and not let them down. You know, like I don't want to disappoint nobody. I don't want to like, damn, Maurice put me on the alpha. I'm the worst alpha ever. That's on him. That's on his reputation. Or Brother Atkins, he put me on or encouraged me to do the Black alumni stuff. But I don't want to let him down.
Yeah.
But I think in the moment of vulnerability, honestly, I'm working on actively seeing, like not waiting for someone to say you're good at it. I want to start seeing positions or level ups without being told and doing it myself.
Gotcha.
I still haven't gotten there yet. I literally just realized that most of the time people like ask me and I said, okay.
You're welcome.
Yeah. True.
So now you know where you need to focus some attention.
Yeah. I mean, I also want to do the good jobs of all these things that people put me on first before I actively look for the next thing. Like me actively look, I want to make sure that I fulfill the obligations and responsibilities of things that people have put in front of me, because I don't want to let them down. One, I don't want to make them look bad. And also, I also want them to, I want to reiterate that they made a good choice in believing in me.
Right. No, I get that.
I don't like, dang, like, I don't want them to like think, why would I put my name or reputation or reach out to someone and they don't do a good job? I think that's something that's really important to me, is like, yo, I know that I have to do a lot of things for myself, but the last thing I want to do is disappoint the people that believe in me. So
that's definitely commendable. I wish others like that as well. But just so you know, I'm proud of you, man.
Hey, I'm all right. Thank you. Don't tell me to do stuff. All the Positive Philter listeners, I'm tapped. Don't be asking me to do no more leadership role. I might say yes. I think that's also another thing too I'm working on in vulnerability, is learning how to say no, because it's so hard to say no when someone believes in you. Because like, how am I going to say no? This is the first time someone asked me to do this. Maybe it won't come up again. You know, like I think of those things like maybe someone won't ask me again. So I got to say yes now. But I've learned over time when working on saying, well, I can't take too much because then I'll do a trash job.
Yeah.
So I got to make sure, like I have in being recruited for stuff recently, I have started to turn down extracurricular leadership roles, like because I just don't have the bandwidth.
And so what has happened to me, I mean, because you and I have certain gifts and talents that people will continue to want to, and this would be a whole separate episode, so we're not gonna go in this road, right?
No.
But what I will recommend or suggest is that as people continue to see that you're dependable and have a strong work ethic, they want to keep coming back to you and presenting you with different options and opportunities, right? And you could, it's nothing wrong with rebutting and say, hey, you know what, I may not be able to occupy this role in this manner, but maybe I can serve as an advisor, right? So there's another frat brother of ours who had wanted to do launch something. It was a program trying to target Black fathers and highlight them, et cetera, right? And I was like, I just don't have the bandwidth to play as much of an active role, but I can give you my opinion and insight on different option scenarios. You know what I'm saying? So I'm still supporting you, but just not in the capacity in which you wanted to, because I knew that I would do a disservice to myself and to the frat brother if I had agreed to doing it. So feel free to utilize that. If you say, hey, I can't do this, but I can offer you that, then I'm sure they'll be much appreciative for that too as well.
Yeah, bandwidth. I'm learning that. That's my word of the year is bandwidth. Like I say that too, like, I'm sorry I don't have the bandwidth to do X, Y, and Z. But you're right, like I can still promote it or share it or connect you with someone that could do it, or let me find someone that can do it. So I'm working on doing that, or maybe even with bandwidth, not now, but not ever either. Like let's just put a not yet for me, and come back to it later. So it's a lot of that stuff. But yeah, we'll have to do another one called I don't know. I'm already decided to call it the randomness of leadership, because the most random ways I've become a leader in the most random ways. I've not been targeted at all. I just kind of float into it.
And the interesting and leadership is a whole separate discussion, because I would challenge anyone who's pursuing to be a leader, and I would just ask them to ask themselves why they want that. Because if they're looking for it simply for the title, then you're not doing it with the right mind frame, right? When accepting vice president of the chapter, I never aspired to be vice president, right? But I knew that, and taking this position will require me to be just as willing to get in the trenches with everybody else to roll my sleeves and do the job to make sure the mission was accomplished, or even carry more weight than other people willing to do so. So a person shouldn't want to get into leadership just for the title or the fame or the prestige that come along with that particular position. It's more so you have to do it with the right intentions.
Yeah, mine is mostly I just want to help people and then figure out how to help people. And then, but by helping people, help people when I'm good at it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I want to, I definitely want to stunt, but also I want to stunt by doing such a good job that I help people so well that things get done. That makes me feel, it makes me feel good. But that's another topic. We definitely gonna go on that. So, as Shannon, this is the part of the show. We're at the end. We did a shot for shot. We did a bunch of things. This is called shout outs and plugs. Shout out whoever you want to show love to, and then plug all the things you want the listeners to follow up with you, like you did your Instagram and all that stuff.
Gotcha.
Shout outs and plugs.
So I want to shoot out every Black entrepreneur that's out there hustling right now. I know that in this COVID season, things are a bit challenging for many people, and more importantly, Black business owners and entrepreneurs. So shout out to you guys. It is my goal to patron as many Black businesses as possible. I just wanted to throw the caveat that I expect for you guys to uphold your end of bargain, provide stellar customer service and good products, services and goods. But shout out to every Black business out there. I understand the struggle. I'm a Black entrepreneur myself, and so we all in this together. Plug. I just want anybody looking forward to connect with me, follow me, or just ask information, exchange information. I'm here as much as I can to help other people. You can find me on Instagram at I am Shannon Thompson, or Facebook Shannon M. Thompson. I forgot. What's on it.
Yeah, we put that in the show notes. I'm sure I have to remember how to type that.
Right, because I don't read Facebook like that, but I make sure I go on there every so often to make sure that I see what's going on.
That's hilarious. Well, we're gonna have you back again, 100%, in other capacities. Thank you, listeners. Please follow up with Shannon. Also, follow his journey around the world. He's not traveling right now, so you can just go back to his old pictures and look like you can see him traveling the world. And maybe we can encourage him to get over 20%. Also, if you like this episode, please share it with your family and friends. If you want to leave a voicemail for the podcast, it's 571-336-6560. That's 571-336-6560. Or you can connect with us, like and review, share the episodes, do all that. This has been great. Definitely appreciate all the support that I've gotten from my guest, but especially Shannon for supporting me multiple times on this podcast. I greatly appreciate it. And then also listeners, I appreciate you. Definitely, this has been something to keep me motivated and still keep this thing going even during COVID. That podcasting has been a really good outlet. So thank you for supporting the podcast and just follow along. And there's nothing more. Just be kind to people. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, do new things, try new things. As long as you're social distancing, you can try new things, learn a new skill on photos or, editing or something. Try something different, learn a new dish, cook something different. So try new things, but be safe at the same time. And that's my show, and we are out. Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.